Alright, so this is just going to be a quick video on some of the pros and cons of different types of bug-out vehicles and what I view as some of the essential aspects of a good bug-out vehicle. Now, first and foremost, whatever you have as a bug-out vehicle, it has to be reliable. It has to be able, to get you wherever you need to go, do whatever you need to do, without any, breakdowns or without any dramas and giving you any trouble. So it has to be reliable, well serviced, well maintained, and preferably be of a make and model that is well known for being reliable. It has to be durable. It has to be tough. It has to be able to take some damage and still keep going. It has to be able to, it might get shot, it might get rammed, it might get you might smash on some big rocks if you're off road. Hit another car with it, hit a small tree. It has to be tough and durable and be able to keep going, and that ties into the reliability. And it has to be capable. So what that really essentially means is it has to be able to get you from where you are at the time to where you want to ultimately get to. So obviously to your buggy out location. So if you're using a car or a truck, then chances are that's going to mean having a car or truck that is a four-wheel drive. Having four-wheel drive capability. Now it has to be it has to have a reasonable fuel range. It has to be able to get you where you need to go with minimal fuel stops. You have to be able to really have all the fuel that you need, be able to carry with you, because there's a good chance you won't be able to stop at petrol stations or anything like that. So you have to be able to have all the fuel you need on you. So it needs to have a good fuel range, and it has to have good cargo capacity. So it has to have, at the bare minimum, it has to be able to carry everything you need to take with you. Preferably, and still preferably have room left over for extra things that you might pick up on the right way. It has to be able to take at least everything you need with you. And what was the other one? It has to be simple, as simple as possible, preferably. I mean, this isn't absolutely essential, but it will help, especially if you do have a breakdown or something. The simpler and easier and quicker it is to fix, the better off you're going to be. Now we come to what is possibly, apart from two-wheel drive versus four-wheel drive, probably the biggest debate when it comes to bug-out vehicles is petrol versus diesel. Now I'll go through a few pros and cons for each fuel type. Starting with the pros of diesel. Well, diesel engines generally, they get better economy. If you work a diesel engine hard and you work a petrol engine hard, similar capacity engines, and you give them similar work, generally the diesel in a similar size vehicle will get better fuel economy, much better fuel economy. And I know this because I've driven a lot of petrol four-wheel drives, and now I have a diesel one, and it is much better fuel economy, even though it's much bigger and heavier and running bigger tyres than my old petrol four-wheel drive. Right, so diesel's also generally a bit more reliable than petrols. They're simpler, there's less things to go wrong. They will 9 times out of 10 outlast a petrol engine. Diesels, they can also run on biodiesels, so homemade fuels. I believe some older petrol engines can run on distilled liquor, but probably not recommended. But I know older diesels generally, not so much the newer ones, but older diesels can run quite comfortably on biofuels. Older diesels, say from about 1990 and back, are generally largely EMP proof. Really, the only thing that you're going to have go on an old diesel engine that's going to prevent you from starting it and running it is going to be the battery. So if you can keep a spare one in a Faraday cage or something, then which is what I plan on doing, then that's great. That pretty much means, if you've got an older diesel, keep a spare battery in a Faraday cage, you're pretty much set for EMPs. Obviously, there's going to be things on the car that do go, the electrics, like radio, any electric windows or anything like that. But I mean, as long as the car still runs and still gets you to where you need to go, that's what matters. Diesel has a much longer storage life than petrol does, and that's a fact. I mean, diesel you can store quite happily for about a year, sometimes longer. in under the right conditions, and you can still run a car or truck on it without doing any damage to the engine or anything like that. Whereas petrol generally only stores a few months at most, much less in undesirable conditions. Now, the pros of petrol is that generally petrol is faster. Petrol engines generally have better performance than diesel engines. So if you need to make a quick getaway from anything or get out of Dodge really fast, then petrol's going to be your best bet. Most cars on the road today are petrol cars. So if you have a petrol bug-out vehicle, most cars on the road you're going to be able to siphon fuel out of. Hopefully you're out and away from any cities and towns and roads long before you have to do that. If you have to do this, you probably left it too late. But if you do have to siphon fuel from other cars on the road, then it's gonna be much easier to find. You're going to be able to find a lot more petrol cars to siphon out of than diesel cars and trucks, even though there are still a lot of diesel trucks on the road. That's about it for the pros of petrol, really. Petrol doesn't have a lot of pros in it for a bug-out vehicle. They tend to be less reliable. They've got a lot more electrics on them. More things to go wrong. Petrol doesn't store as long. So yeah, definitely in terms of fuel types, you are best off with diesel for a serious, no-nonsense bug-out vehicle. And then we come to another big debate between the two sides, and that is a motorcycle versus a car slash four-wheel drive slash truck. Now, the pros of a motorbike is that they're much more manoeuvrable, they're much more agile, so obviously you can get around a lot of gridlock traffic and obstacles on the road, and they're much more fuel efficient. That's no lie. Obviously, if it's a two-stroke motorbike or a big bore four-stroke, then it's probably going to use quite a bit of fuel. But if you're using something like a trail bike or an ag bike, generally they're quite fuel efficient. And as I said, continuing on with a trail bike or an ag bike, they're generally pretty quiet as well. They'll be a lot quieter than most cars, even when you go on full throttle. Cons of a motorbike is that you're much less protected, and that's from, well, basically everything. You're much less protected from other people who might want to impede your journey, less protection from wild animals or hitting obstacles on the road. Like here in Australia, you've got to watch out for kangaroos jumping across the road at night in rural areas. On a motorbike, if you hit a kangaroo, it's all over. Less protection from the weather, virtually no protection from the weather. So unless you're wearing waterproof clothes, if bad weather rolls in, you just got to pull over and take shelter unless you want to end up soaking wet. Not much cargo space on a motorbike. You'd probably be able to carry enough supplies to get you through a couple of weeks, but unless you've got caches along the way, or you get to your bug-out location which is already stocked within a few days, then a motorbike's probably not going to be your best option, especially if you've got other people that you need to take with you that cannot ride a motorbike. Pros of a four-wheel drive, and I'm taking into account here a truck, and really a lot of passenger cars as well are included in this, is that they're basically a mobile shelter. You can sleep in them. You're 100% protected from any weather, apart from obviously the cold will still get through and the heat, but rain completely cuts out rain and wind. So it's a mobile shelter, unlike a motorbike. You've got some protection from people. Obviously people can still throw rocks through the windows, stuff like that. Stick a stick through the radiator, through the front, but yeah, you got protection from animals, so somewhat protected from hitting animals on the road. Obviously wild animals can't get at you if you're in the bush or forest, stuff like that. Wild dogs, snakes, big cats, stuff like that. Wild pigs. Protected from the weather, obviously. You've got a lot more cargo space than a motorbike. Quite a bit of cargo space. Obviously bigger cars and trucks are going to have a much more cargo space. Mine's a Land Cruiser, so 60 series diesel, so it's got a lot of cargo space. I could fit a serious amount of gear in it, and that's good. It's also got seating capacity for 6 people. And you can carry a lot of extra fuel in a vehicle, like a four-wheeled vehicle, that you can't do on a motorbike. In a motorbike, you might be able to carry, a couple of 10-litre jerry cans, maybe one 20-litre jerry can. That works out to be the same amount, but that's about all you can carry really, in addition to a long-range fuel tank that you may have fitted. which that can still get you as much as a car on one, as much as a car can go on one tank, but you're still not going to go as far as a diesel four-wheel drive or truck that has lots of spare jerry cans. You can carry passengers in a four-wheel drive or truck or car, which you can't do in on a motorbike. You can carry one person on a motorbike, but that's going to cut down your cargo capacity to virtually nil on an off-road orientated motorbike. It can be used as a large weapon. You can use it as a battering ram quite easily. You can easily take out people on the road. If you need to, if you've got a four-wheel drive truck with a bull bar, you can do that with no damage to the car. Overall, they're just four-wheel drives and trucks are a lot more versatile than motorbikes, and even than just your conventional sedans and cars and coupes and stuff like that. So yeah, that's just a bit of an overview on what I think of bug-out vehicles, and the pros and cons of the different types and that. It's by no means a definitive guide, but I hope it was interesting for you, and maybe it gave you a bit of an idea, maybe helped you make up your mind on what to look for in your next bug-out vehicle, or maybe even your first bug-out vehicle that you plan on purchasing. Yeah, that's about it. Until next time. Cheers.